It's time for this week's episode of Brandon's Sports Talk.
Welcome back to Brandon Sports Talk. In today's episode, I have the privilege to interview the new Oregon State head women's soccer coach, Lauren Sinacola. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. Can you talk about how you knew that you wanted to get into college coaching as a head coach?
Yeah, I think when I immediately got into college coaching, 10, 12 years ago, losing track, I knew I always kind of wanted to push myself and challenge myself to the highest level and see what I could do. And so it was always kind of in the back of my mind that I wanted to learn, I wanted to grow, and I wanted to lead my own program one day at the highest level I possibly could and be as successful as possible. So I knew when I got into it that in the end I wanted to be a head coach. And so I've just worked my way up and, learned from some of the best, worked with some of the best, still learning and working with some of the best. And I think that's what's so fun about our job is that you can keep learning and keep challenging yourself no matter how high up you get in the rankings, I guess you could say.
Of course, as a college soccer player, did you ever know that you wanted to become a head coach?
I think, as a college soccer player, my dream was to play professionally and, represent our country. And, I got into college coaching because I suffered an injury my senior year while I was playing at Michigan State. And the coaches there they were amazing. They pulled me in as their volunteer coach. And that's when I got into coaching. And I never knew I wanted to be a college coach until I was in it. And then I fell in love with it immediately. And it was a pretty clear path for me at that point that I couldn't picture myself doing anything else.
How was it like, obviously, getting your start at Michigan State in coaching?
It was great. I mean, to work alongside the coaches that I played for, Tom Saxon, Tammy Farnham, Stacy Heller, or Stacy DeLong, but they coached me when I was there, and then to work alongside them as coaches and learn from them. And I think as a college player, at least while I was growing up, you don't really know what your college coaches are doing when they're not on the field with you. You're like, oh yeah, that's all they do. They just get to come out and train us, which it's like, yeah, it sounds like an amazing life. But just all the intricacies of it and the focus and the recruiting and the office work and, creating a culture, creating a program, having a plan, having a vision, and honestly impacting lives and influencing lives of college students. There's just so much more involved in it than just the field work. I think that's honestly the least amount of stuff that you're doing, which is great. Like I love being on the field with my team. I think it's the highlight of my day every day to be able to go out in the field with my team. Just such a great group. But I really truly learned what it was to be a college coach. And so that experience learning from the ones that were so impactful in my life, those coaches at Michigan State, they really helped me develop as a human. And so learning from them really did kind of set the trajectory of my college coaching and how I wanted to be a college coach. And so I thank them for a lot of, what I do today and how I approach things and how I approach my student athletes and, on and off the field. So it was something that I'll never forget and I'll never take for granted and I'll always be appreciative.
What was that first feeling like when you got the head coaching job at Western Michigan?
It was an amazing feeling. I loved Western Michigan. It was a place where I really got my foot in the door as a college coach and being the assistant there for so long and having success and winning championships. Then I had my opportunity to even put more of my thumbprint on it and, do some things a little differently or change things up and honestly learn. I learned so much while I was the head coach at Western, what I needed in my staff, what I wanted to implement, what worked, what did not work. But getting that call where I was being hired as the head coach, it was It was just so many emotions. Like I remember crying. I'm a crier. So I remember crying, just being so happy, but honestly, just being really proud and excited to continue the path that we worked so hard as a staff and the players at Western Michigan. Like I just wanted to continue that on and I wanted to represent them well. So to be able to do that and be the leader of the program per se, I was just really proud to be that and very grateful.
Of course, how was it like obviously having that role as first time head coach in your whole coaching career?
It was nerve-wracking. It's scary. It was great though. I'm not gonna lie. I was stressed. I had a lot of anxiety, second guessed myself a lot, which I still do. I think when you're in charge of a program and you're trying to implement things and do things differently, like crossing your fingers. I really hope this works, and if it doesn't, it's on me. And that's what's really exhilarating about being a head coach. Like it is on you. It's your final call, and you're gonna get it wrong. But what it did teach me though is when I got it wrong, like I needed to change that into opportunities to grow, and I needed to learn from it. And I think that's what truly set me up to have more success and be more confident as a head coach here at Oregon State.
Of course, leaving Western Michigan, what was it like during your 4 years at Notre Dame?
It was hard leaving Western. I still love that place. I still love, the people that work there, the student athletes, still have great relationships with them. It was, it's hard for my wife worked there too. So it was a transition period for both of us. But when I transitioned into Notre Dame, both soccer life and personal life was different. My wife and I, my fiance at the time, we lived apart for the first year, so there was a lot of driving back and forth and just experiencing that in a different way. But it was hard leaving Western. It really was. I still have a special place in my heart for Western Michigan, but it was also super exciting to be joining the ACC, a place like Notre Dame with such tradition and excellence and a different level of just the student athlete you're dealing with every day and you're working with, and the commitment of the academics on top of the community, on top of the athletics and the expectations that those student athletes even hold for themselves. It was really different, and it did challenge me. It challenged me personally, challenged my confidence. I felt very outside of my comfort zone, which was great for me in the end. I learned a lot. I met a lot of great people. You're playing in the ACC, which is one of the best conferences in the country. And so you're competing against the best players, the best teams, the best coaches. So it stretched me. It really did. But that time I spent at Notre Dame, again, I learned a lot. I got to work with some amazing people. And again, it helped set me up to be successful here and compete in the Pac-12, which is, again, one of the best conferences in the country for women's soccer.
Of course, what was it like competing in the ACC, playing teams like Carolina, NC State, and Duke?
Is exciting. It's fun. Every game is a battle, right? You have to prepare. I spent a lot of time at Notre Dame building the scouting reports and things like that. So it really challenged me tactically and how to understand the game, how to break it down, and how to prepare a team to go compete. And it was exciting. It was nerve-wracking, of course. You don't want to set things up in the wrong way, but it challenged me. It really did help my soccer knowledge in a sense that, like, I knew I always understood the game, especially when I was a player. I was a center mid, so I saw the game in different ways. I understood a lot of different things, creativeness and how the ball moved and how you could move players, on and off the ball. But to see it and prepare for teams like, NC State, Duke, what you mentioned, Carolina, Florida State, like it's a business. You got to get it right. You got to focus on it and you got to present it in a way that makes sense. So it was exciting. It was really fun. Like, I loved being challenged. So it was a challenge every single day. So I loved going to work and I loved, studying the other teams.
Of course, in your last few years at Notre Dame, was there any intuition that you wanted to get back into that head coaching role?
Yeah, I think, like I said, when I first got into college coaching, I knew I wanted to be a head coach, and that was my end game. And in all honesty, even at Western Michigan, and knowing what my end game goal is to be, a head coach at the highest level if possible. I knew I needed to challenge myself more tactically and in an environment where I did feel challenged. I did feel pushed. And it's not that I wasn't challenged at Western Michigan, by no means. And I also believe that you can challenge yourself every day. It doesn't matter your environment. Go find that challenge, go grow if that's what you want. But I knew that if I wanted to climb that ladder and get into a position like this, I needed to put myself in a more demanding, challenging, everyday environment, competing against the top in the country. So when I got to Notre Dame, I never planned to leave in a time frame. I just knew that I need to make the most out of this experience and this environment to go get that head coaching role at the next level. So that was kind of always in the back of my mind. Did I know when it was going to happen? No, I never really look for jobs or did any of that. But I knew that if I went about it in the right way and I focused on making Notre Dame successful and helping Notre Dame succeed, that my opportunity would come.
Of course, what was that feeling like when you got the call from Oregon State to become the next head coach?
Oh, it was amazing. Honestly, I got the phone call while I was on a plane. We landed and we got paused or delayed, I guess, like we couldn't get off the plane. So we were just like sitting there. And it was at a recruiting event. So I was surrounded by a bunch of soccer players. And so I had to go like in the back of the plane and I got the phone call from the AD and he offered me the job. So I was just like sitting on a plane, like waiting to like kind of celebrate, but I couldn't like show my excitement because I was surrounded by a bunch of soccer players that were playing at the event that I was going to recruit. But it still is an amazing feeling. I'm so excited that I'm here. I'm flattered that I've gotten this opportunity, very humbled by it. You know, it was a breath of fresh air, but then like a sense of like, all right, let's get after it. Let's compete. Like, what do I got to do? How can I put this in motion as soon as possible? What are my next steps? So it was like excitement, but then like, let's get after it. Because when I got the offer, it was less than a month before preseason started. So I was like, I got to get moving. But no, it was, this is an opportunity. It definitely still is an opportunity that I am fully committed to. And when I got that call, I was just really, really happy and really, really excited.
Of course, after you got that call while being on the plane going on Notre Dame's behalf, was there a moment in the switch that you were like, now that you're the Oregon State head coach, you're now recruiting for Oregon State instead of Notre Dame at that time?
Yeah, no, that was an interesting experience. You know, the staff at Notre Dame knew I was going through the process and they knew that there was a possibility during this recruiting trip that something could happen. Because I actually went on the interview and then went straight from the interview to recruit. So I never even got home. I was gone for just like 2.5 weeks, just kind of going through this process. But I was fully committed to Notre Dame and I didn't want to quote unquote leave them hanging or screw them over. So when I got the offer, I met the Notre Dame coach at the event. He also flew in the other assistant to kind of take over, but I still finished out the trip, like helping them because I was the recruiting coordinator. So I kind of had the lists and the schedules and, you know, the specific players. So, and I did take notes for them. I gave them all of my honest feedback. I always will do that for anybody who asks, but I wanted to stay committed and loyal to Notre Dame and that staff and who they were recruiting, because again, without the process with them, I wouldn't have this opportunity. So by no means would I ever have done anything to turn against them. But in the process of it, it's like, yeah, of course, in the back of my head, I'm like, okay, these are players that you should be aware of Notre Dame, but I want those players too. So let's compete and let's get after it, which was fun. Like it is. And all of my recruiting at Notre Dame did set me up to be successful in recruiting here at Oregon State. So it was an interesting transition. A lot of us joke about it because I left the field in Notre Dame gear, they announced me, and then I came back to those same fields in Oregon State gear. So it was kind of like a Superman jersey switch type thing. But no, it was fun.
What was that feeling like when you got announced during the press conference that you became the new coach for Oregon State?
It was great. It was exhilarating. You know, I had a Zoom meeting with the Notre Dame players, let them know that I was leaving, and then immediately hopped on to a Zoom with the Oregon State players and introduced myself. So it was fun. It was exhilarating. It was very entertaining. You know, it was very flattering and very humbling at the same time, just to get a lot of congratulations from friends and family and people in the coaching world, and, you know, old players that I used to coach at Western, or, you know, even Olivet before Western. So it was just a really great feeling. Like, it would be wrong of me. I would lie if I wasn't like, yeah, no big deal. Like it was great. And it was a feeling I'll never forget. But then on top of that, yeah, pressure, some, anxiousness, stress. You don't want to let people down, right? And you set a high expectation for yourself, so you don't let yourself down. There was just a lot going through your head. It's like, now I got to land and I got to move across the country to get to Oregon State. So there was just so much going on. But that day, I'll never forget that day. It was a great feeling.
Of course, speaking about that, how is the transition like from going from Notre Dame, where you were home, to now going all across through the whole entire country to Oregon?
Yeah, I would say it was scary, but my brother lives in Portland, Oregon, actually. And so we've been apart for maybe 14, 15 years. So I knew there was a sense of comfort if I were to move to Oregon. Honestly, in the past 10 months or 11 months that I've been here now, I've seen my brother Dom more than I have in the past 10 months than I have in 15 years, which is sad to say, but like awesome. And to see and spend time with his wife, it's been really great. But it is difficult. I'm not gonna lie. It's difficult being away from the main group of my family who live in the Midwest still. It's difficult being away from the friends that I created living in the Midwest for so long. So it would be a lie if I say it was easy, but again, that's part of the challenge and the sacrifice you make wanting to pursue your goals and pursue your dreams. And I'll be honest, I wasn't really sure what to expect with Oregon State, but when they brought me on my on-campus visit interview, I fell in love with it right away. And I knew I could start my own family here. I could really, my wife and I could invest our lives here and make this place special, because it is special. It's such a great feel. It's such a great community. We felt welcomed right away. The student athletes were extremely welcoming right away. So I knew that once we got here, I wouldn't be scared anymore. I wouldn't feel out of my comfort zone. And honestly, I got here right away and it felt like home.
Of course, as a head coach, what was that feeling like when you came on campus for the first time and you found the spots that you would take the recruits on?
Yeah, I mean, I think when I got here and they were bringing me around on my interview, there were just a lot of really neat things about Oregon State. It's beautiful, coming from the Midwest and coming out to the Pac Northwest, like it's very different. There's mountains, like there's a joke that my wife and I say, it's like, we don't mind driving 25 to 30 minutes to a restaurant because you're just staring at mountains the whole time. It's gorgeous. So it's like the drive is more enjoyable, but just being here in campus, like, our field, the facilities, the campus in general, the different surrounding areas of Corvallis, just getting people here is the highlight, because I think it tells its own story. Obviously, you want to describe your program and you want to describe what you're doing and the goals and where people you see them fitting into that. But like, it's just being here and meeting the people. I think if you ask a lot of individuals that are on campus here, like what stands out, I wouldn't be surprised if they said the people. It's just a unique place in that. And so that's my big thing is, when I got here, it's like, what do I want to truly highlight? I just want them spending time on campus and meeting the people.
Of course, who are some of the teams that you're going to be facing in the Pac-12, and what is it like, obviously coming from the ACC to now the Pac-12?
Yeah, I mean the Pac-12. I'm not going to go off and list all of them, but we're playing Stanford, UCLA, USC, the Arizonas, Washington State, Colorado, Utah. I may have just listed all of them, and then us in Oregon. I don't know. Sorry if I forgot anybody out there, but it's really competitive. I mean, normally you're getting 5-6 teams in the NCAA tournament. It's always a thing of mine that if you're competing for a Pac-12 championship, that means you have an opportunity to compete for a national championship. And so it's intense. Every single game is a challenge. Every single game is competitive. You're not going to just walk over anybody in this conference. You have to prepare. You have to be on your game. You have to have a game plan, which is really similar to the ACC, like I mentioned earlier. And that's why I felt confident coming and taking over a program in the Pac-12 was because I experienced the ACC. I think different sides of the country, I think you can talk about different styles of play, different types of student athletes that maybe come to the ACC versus the Pac-12. But in all reality, they're both competitive. They're both wanting to win national championships, and they both have teams that can do it. And that's what, is important me. And that's why I know I'm ready and capable of taking this team to a championship.
Of course, how is it going to be like facing your in-state rival of Oregon Ducks versus obviously facing UCLA?
That rivalry is fun. That was the first time I experienced it this fall, and it's a battle. It's a grind. The entire unit, like both universities get into it. It's fun. That game is great. And it's always the last game of the season. So it's like everything's on the line. Tends to be a senior day for whoever's hosting. It's fun. I've experienced rivalry games like being at Michigan State, playing Michigan. It's a different, there's just so much behind it that it's hard for me to describe. I don't want to take anything away from that experience by not describing it appropriately, but it's a lot of fun. A lot of passion is on that field at that night or that day. But is it different than playing UCLA? I think it's different. I think it'd be a lie if I told you it's not. But I think when you're in the pack, every single game is super important. You need to end 500 or above to have a chance at the NCAA tournament. So every single game is super important and super difficult, which again, that's why, you come to a place like this and you come to a team in the Pac-12 because you want that challenge every single game. You don't want to roll over anybody. You want to be challenged.
Of course, what is the feeling going to feel like, obviously, when you get to step foot on the field for the first time as head coach?
How's it different, or how did it feel? Sorry.
How did it feel?
Oh, it felt great. There was I'll be honest, it didn't really hit me because I think the transition here for me and my staff at the time, we moved to Corvallis 2 weeks before preseason started. So there wasn't really time for us to soak it in. We just kind of got here and we're like, what do we have to do? Let's get moving. How can we prepare? So there wasn't really a lot of soaking in time, which is sad, but it's just the reality of the situation. And so when I stepped onto the field the first time as the head coach, I can't tell you what I was thinking, but after that win, it was such a special feeling. I think there's so many cool things that happened this past season for our program. And a lot of people ask, what's your favorite memory? And there's so many neat things that happened, so many accomplishments, beating top teams, first time in school history at places so many special things. But that first win on our home field as the Oregon State head coach, that one still just makes me smile. And I think seeing the faces of the players after that win, I won't forget it. And it just makes my heart so full.
Of course, can you talk about the culture that you've started to build for the Oregon State women's soccer program?
Yeah. So many things. I'm a firm believer that if you stop working on your culture, that's when it implodes and, things go down the drain. So it's something that we always focus on. We talk about, it's not like we sit and have a meeting and say, how's our culture? But you want to implement things and you kind of want to put things in the minds of your players and kind of let that kind of navigate its way throughout the team. But, we want to be competitive, and that's extremely important. And I think most universities and college teams want that too. That's not different. It's right. But what's different is what does it actually look like to be competitive, and what does it take to be competitive at the level that we're at? Not just show up and go through the motions. And we don't want to be the bottom of the Pac-12. We want to be the top of the Pac-12. So what does it actually mean? And what does it look like to be competitive? And what is the commitment level like to be competitive? What is the sacrifice like to be competitive, right? So we want to be competitive in our way, and what's going to take us to that next level. And then you talk, which again, a lot of programs probably say this as well, is instead of being selfish, can you be selfless? And I think that kind of ties into the idea of, how are you not only setting yourself up for success and going after your goals, but how are you helping your teammates do that? What are your teammates passionate about, and how are you supporting them in their passions? Because in all reality, you wish everybody loved soccer as much as you do. But that's just not the case when you come into college teams. You hope the majority are just passionate about soccer and they love soccer so much. But in the end, they should be, if they're not passionate about the sport, they should be passionate about you, right? And being selfless through the everyday and putting each other first, that's where the passions can combine. And that's when you're going to run through the brick wall for each other. And, and that leads into the community and what you're doing with the youth and the campus life and just anything in general. It's like, can you put others first? And that's when you find true fulfillment, but that's when you really truly find those connections and those strong connections moving forward. So I think those two things are really, really important. And then I talked a little bit about, we want to be passionate just in general. Like if you're going to do something, do it passionately, because if you're not fully invested, you're not going to get the most out of it. And I truly believe that. And so like, if you're being competitive and you're being selfless, when you're going about it in a passionate way, you're going to get the most out of it. And so like, we're building just that true investment. We're building that true commitment of what it really means to be those things. And then we have a saying here where we say beef up in our program. And for that, it's like, we have everything we need here to be successful. And you're going to hit bumps in the road. You're going to fail. You're going to have success. You're going to get injured. You're going to fail a test. You're going to, you're going to get into an argument with your teammate. You're going to mess up. There's so many things that can get in your way. But in the end, we say beef up. It's like, don't make excuses. Like, let's get better from it. Let's grow. I think like the mentality of our team, it's like, what you can do when you hit these moments of adversity is you have a reaction, then you have a response. And the reaction's like the, oh crap, or like, I hope coach doesn't find out, or, I'm pissed at my teammate about something. So that's like your reaction, but like, how do you take that reaction and turn it into the appropriate response? Can you, approach your teammate and have a difficult conversation? Can you go to your coach and let us know that you messed up before we find out from somebody else? Or there's just so many things, or it's like, hey, let's get on the line and get some fitness in, instead of pouting and putting your head down and saying this is ridiculous. It's like, hey, we get to do this. We get to get better today. We get to get fitter. So just kind of like those little intricacies of how we approach the everyday is really what we're kind of focusing on. And the big thing is, can we just get better every day? And we have goals of a soccer program, but we also have goals for them as people. And, we want them to feel respected, loved, make them feel like they have a role here, that they're important to what we're doing. And that, if you focus on that stuff, the success on the field will come.
Of course, what does the recruitment process look like as a new head coach versus obviously your time as an assistant coach?
Well, I have a recruiting coordinator here. So Caroline, one of my assistants, she's more of the recruiting coordinator. So she organizes it. She keeps things in a spreadsheet and schedule things, know the players that we should be looking at, talking to, keeping it all organized. Whereas when I was the assistant, I was doing all that stuff. So she's kind of taken over that responsibility, which is great. It frees me up to focus a lot more on soccer and what we're doing as a program specifically here, and the steps we're taking in the vision. So she takes over. She's our recruiting coordinator. But in the end, it's like, we want to find the best players, but we want to find the right fit. And I think if we find the right fit for what an Oregon State women's soccer player is, and to move us in that right direction and keep going, that's what's most important to us.
Of course, what are some of the things that you look at now as head coach versus your time as assistant coach in those recruits?
I think what we just kind of talked about, and we want people that want to be here. We don't want to sit here and try to convince individuals to come and be a part of the Oregon State community. It's a special thing to be a part of here, and we want people that want to be here. I would lie. We want really talented soccer players. Like, you're going to need that. But, we also want individuals that know that they haven't reached their peak, that they want to develop, that they want to grow, that they don't have the answer to everything, that they don't know everything on the field, off the field, that they want to grow and they want to get better, but they want to be here to do it. And that's what we want. We want the right fit. And we want people that want to come in and, put Oregon State on the map for women's soccer. Like, if you come here, it's not going to be easy. It's going to be challenging, but we want individuals that want that. But, and I think, like, again, you can talk to a lot of universities and they'll say similar things, because there's a select few that are sitting up at the top of women's soccer consistently. And so, like, if you're going to go anywhere else other than that place, like, it's going to be a challenge to get to that highest level. And that's where we're at as a program. Like, we're not at the top. right? But we're going to get there, and we have to find the right people and the right fit to get there.
What advice would you have college soccer players looking to play college soccer and then go on to the professional in the NWSL?
Don't ever give up. If that's your dream and that's what you want, don't ever give up. I think the biggest thing is, put yourself in challenging environments regularly, because you need to be stretched, you need to be pushed, but you don't ever give up. And I think if that's what you truly want, you have to be committed to it in a way that you're going to have to sacrifice. You're going to have to buy into the everyday of what it takes to be a professional, what it takes to be a successful Division I student athlete. Like you can't just go through the motions. You have to buy into everything, and you have to love it. You have to love the process for you to have success at that level. The process of recovery, the process of fueling your body, the process of going in the training room, even when maybe you're not hurting, but you need to take care of your body. Just all the everyday intricacies of it, you need to love it. And because you need to take care of all those things to allow yourself to perform at the highest level, to grow, to be challenged. And I think that's the biggest thing when talking to college student athletes who want to pursue professional soccer opportunities and get drafted and go on. It's like, you have the ability to do it, but you have to love and buy into the process of the everyday to do it. And so I think just don't ever give up, but understand what it really takes and buy into it.
Of course, what's the one advice you would give future college coaches looking to become head coaches?
Is it weird to say similar things? Don't ever give up. Buy into the everyday. No, I think it's, if that's what you want and you want to be a head coach, I think you have to continue to put yourself in situations to surround yourself with people that will challenge you, that will help you grow. Be a sponge. I think, nothing against any of the coaches I've worked with, like, you're going to learn things that you want to do. You're going to learn things that you don't want to do, that you want to do differently. You'll learn a lot about yourself, but like, you have to put yourself in the environment to do that. And I think that's something that I really enjoyed doing. I mean, if you look at my resume, I just worked for one head coach when I was an assistant. So it's not like I was like, hey, I'm learning from all of these different people, but I also put myself in situations to learn from others via like education routes, via Zoom things during COVID. Like, I did a bunch of different courses. I loved watching like YouTube clips and signing up for different programs like that, and just being a nerd of the game. But again, putting yourself in situations to learn, to ask questions, like always kind of asking questions and trying to figure out like what fits your style and how you would coach. But put yourself in challenging environments that stretches you, that forces you to grow, that forces you to ask questions. Take initiative to learn and grow if you're not in that environment. But if that's what you want to be a head coach, don't give up, and understand that you're going to have to take some weird steps to possibly get there. Not everyone's route is the same. Everyone's route's very, very different, which I appreciate. I think that's what makes head coaches who they are, is because their routes are different.
Where can my listeners find you at on social media, along with the Oregon State women's soccer program at?
Yeah, so on Instagram, I am at Lauren_Sinacola. And then on Twitter, I am at Coach Sinacola. And then I believe for both Instagram and Twitter, for Oregon State women's soccer, it's at Beaver W Soccer. That's where you can find us. Good old social media.
Thank you again, Coach Lauren Sinacola, for your interview, and best of luck in your future as the new Oregon State head women's soccer coach.
Great. Thank you. Have a good one.
Thank you. You can find Brandon Sports Talk on Facebook at Brandon Sports Talk, Instagram at Brandon Sports Talk, Twitter at Talk_Brandon. And you can find me on YouTube at Brandon Sports Talk. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you again, Coach Lauren Sinacola, for your interview, and best of luck in your future at Oregon State.
Thank you, sir. Have a good one.
You've been watching Brandon Sports Talk. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe to Brandon Sports Talk on social media and on YouTube.